kill Brett.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, Brett's a tough guy and all that, but Sean's my friend.
Scott, who would round out the NWO at this point, more specifically the Wolfpack, your group? I mean, I think I know the answers, but go ahead and answer it anyway.
Wolfpack's full, man. There's only 3. We got 3.
There are 2 more guys I think that could fit in pretty nice.
I don't know, man.
They're under contract, I think, though.
Well, the original. Oh no, you're talking.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
You're going with the original Click.
Right.
You should have seen. One time, our last European tour for the WWF, we all posed for a photo together in Munich, and I saw that photo everywhere. People have given it to me. I've seen different angles of it. It's like a big deal. I didn't realize it was a news event, but then someone had pointed out that we had never posed together before. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have Paul Levesque and Mike Hickenbottom join us, but that's at the same time, part of you thinks, well, somebody's got to carry, the WWF and please their fans. And
it's almost like you're setting up shop in 2 places in a way.
Well, yeah, we felt like we weren't, the Clique wasn't, disbanding. We were just dividing and conquering.
Scott, tell us a little bit about, there was your last night at Madison Square Garden. The Clique kind of had a farewell ceremony, the 5 new guys. You got a lot of heat over that.
Call.
Yeah, there was a lot of heat over that for the members who stayed. What was that like? I mean, how did you guys plan that out? What was the aftermath like? It wasn't so bad for you, but for the guys who stuck around, there was a little bit of heat, obviously.
Well, actually, Hunter, Paul Levesque, Hunter Hearst Helmsley suffered the brunt of that because, of course, Sean went on to be the man. So, and Kevin and I left. So there was only one place for all that heat to fall. So it fell right on Hunter, and it hurt his career. But I think ultimately the way it was handled, it hurt the WWF. Because they punished one of their most talented guys. Right,
they really broke his own momentum and sort of set him back a little bit. He could have been a key guy for them at that time, especially.
Exactly. It's what somebody once told me who also worked there said that when one guy's calling the shots like that, he doesn't answer to anybody. He's just surrounded by yes men. So if Vince isn't careful, he's going to wind up like Elvis. Just a bunch of guys going, yeah, you're great. And he's going to end up dead sitting by
squatting dead over a toilet, I was going to say. Let's go to Jamie from Birmingham. Jamie, you're on with Mark Madden and Scott Hall.
Yes, I wanted to ask Scott Hall 2 questions.
What's up?
Yeah, I was wondering, when is the Wolfpack going to beat down Peter Pan and get all this nonsense over with?
Which one's Peter Pan?
Sting.
Right, enough. Sting on a string, right, like a yo-yo up and down.
It makes me sick. And
well,
one more
my question is, cool entrance. Now what?
I don't know.
What do you got? I'm just gonna walk down the aisle. I'll meet you there, scary man.
What else is on your mind, Jamie?
Yes, I know Scott Hall's a big rap fan.
Yeah.
And Tupac, dead or alive.
Huh? All eyes on me.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right. Scott, that is an interesting question. I mean, how long can Sting, Sting is a pretty hot guy as far as selling T-shirts goes, but how long do you think a guy like him can keep doing what he's doing without wrestling and stay hot?
Not much longer. I don't know. I think it's time to put up or shut up, We've seen your entrance. We all agree it's cool. Now what,
What about, you guys had, you got a series of matches with Ric Flair and Roddy Piper and, basically different configurations, be it singles, even a couple 6-mans in there. What was that series like? What was it like, Scott? I know you have a great knowledge of wrestling tradition as well as some respect, but what was it like working with those guys at this stage in their career and at this stage in yours?
Yeah, you're right. It's funny that, they're in the twilight of their career, but they're still being featured. I don't know. Yeah, anybody who's broke in when I broke in, you were a fan of Ric Flair and Roddy Piper because they were on top. So you figured, well, that must be what you strive to be because they're getting paid the most. So that must be the way to do it. But I don't know. I think it's enough is enough. When do I get mine?
Now, Scott, since you came here, obviously you've had a little bit of creative input in some of the stuff you've done, like we talked about earlier, and some of the stuff people around you have done. What kind of contrast is that to the earlier part of your career where, like you said, not only in New York but other promotions, you were pretty much told what to do? I mean, I'm sure those days were frustrating. It must even be more frustrating to think back on them now that you've shown you can be creative.
Well, it's easier to be told what to do, but you've got to hope that the guy giving the orders has a clue. I think it's just natural, though, as you progress in your career, that you start taking more active part in what your character does, because by that point you've lived that character and you are that character. And my argument with bookers or guys giving creative input has always been, if I opposed their thought, it was always only because I care the most. I'm the one in the ring. Nobody cares more than me.
All right, here's a question from the chat room, Scott. What was it like feuding with Dustin Rhodes in the character he played up there? I mean, that must have been a very mixed bag for you, especially the way the character was portrayed then. It's pretty much a hardcore homosexual, if you will, to be perfectly honest
right.
there.
And and he was in love with me and courting me, and I opposed that because I just thought it was in bad taste the way it was being done. And I have nothing against homosexuals. I guess I should make a disclaimer, so I'm politically correct. But I just thought the way they were exploiting it for a cheap thrill or something, I was against it. And I think Dustin misunderstood that and thought that I didn't like him, although I tried to explain to him that I was only against that character and had nothing to do with him personally. So that made the matches kind of tough, and he was just learning that character. And in my defense, it wasn't like Dustin invented the character like I did with Razor. He didn't invent the character. It was given to him, so it wasn't like I was shooting down his brainchild. But I just thought it was in bad taste. And now it comes to find out a year later that they've done a big thing and shown that he's a family man and he wasn't really gay after all and blah, blah, blah. So I guess I was right. And once again, they spent a year doing something negative. They did that. They buried Hunter. They pushed a fake Razor and a fake Diesel. I just thought it's kind of funny, right?
Well, with Dustin, too, the disclaimer and showing he's a family man was probably more homophobic than anything you could have done or could have said when you were up there.
Well, the way it was laid out to me was that the Razor character would be the perfect guy because he was so machismo, and
let's ooze it together, as I recall.
He would be the one who would be the most, homophobic, to use your word.
Let's go to the phones here. Joanne from Chicago. You're on with Scott Hall and Mark Madden.
Hi, Scott. I was just wondering, what was it like to wrestle The Undertaker?
The first time I wrestled him when I first came to WWF, I actually wrestled him in Hershey, Pennsylvania at my first TV, and I wrestled The Undertaker for 20 minutes, and at that point, no one had even covered him. He'd never been pinned. No one had ever even put him in a hold before. I think I put him in an abdominal stretch. It was the first time he'd ever been in a hold. I think he's great. I'm a big fan of The Undertaker. I wish him a lot of success.
Anything else, Joanne? Okay, Joanne, Scott. Scott, here's a question from the chat room that I don't think really is you've talked about in public to this point. You had an altercation with Jerry Saggs in the ring a number of months ago, I think. What was that like, and where's that going to go from here? I don't know if the Nasty Boys are even employed here anymore, to tell you the truth. But
I think they are. I saw Knobs in a charity show we did in Buffalo. It was less than a month ago. I've known the Nasty Boys since they broke in, and we were all in Minneapolis together. I think it was just a big misunderstanding between me and Jerry, and he felt I had whapped him with a chair a couple weeks prior to this, and he thought maybe I was taking liberties with him, and he misunderstood it. I hit him with a chair, and I think it was Shreveport again when he wasn't really looking, and he got hot. And it happened in the ring, so I don't know.
But there's no hard feelings right now as far as you're concerned?
Well, we met a couple weeks later and talked in New Orleans at a Nitro, and as far as I can say, I wasn't really that hot. I kind of understood his point of view. I didn't think he handled it the best way, but I don't know. It's history, man.
Here's Justin from Albuquerque. Justin, you're on with Scott Hall and Mark Madden.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, buddy.
I was wondering, what do you think about ECW's Blue World Order?
I actually think it's a little more entertaining than the way the WWF did it. I think the Blue Meanie guy is kind of funny in the way they have like a Hogan guy and a guy who does Six and a guy who does Kevin. And I think it's a little more entertaining than
the Nation of Domination.
Well, the Nation of Imitation, or the way they had a fake Razor and a Razor Diesel 2. I think it was a little more entertaining, but at the same time, they're kind of featuring guys off another program, so I feel like these guys are like my big fans. How many tapes did this guy in the WWF watch of me before he went out and did it? What about the Blue Meanie guy? He's the head of the Blue World Order, so I guess I got bumped up, right? The featured guy in the Blue World Order.
Well, I will say, obviously, the Blue Meanie looks nothing like Scott Hall, or probably nothing like Scott Hall will ever look like.
That's why it's more entertaining.
Exactly.
It's funny that way. The way Vince did it, Vince insulted his audience by assuming they were stupid enough to believe that.
Now, here's a question about an ex-tag team partner. You teamed with Dan Spivey at one point in the American Starships.
Right. I was Coyote, he was the Eagle.
That's right. Now, is Dan retired now, or what's the deal with him?
I think he is. I heard that he had a knee surgery, and that was the last I heard about Danny. I think he was looking into being a strength coach at one of the universities in Florida.
There's another question from the chat room. A guy from ECW named Shane Douglas has, tried to stake his reputation on ripping guys from the two major companies, and lately you've been a target of his wrath. He's criticized your work rate, your performance. I mean, what do you think of that guy and that promotion in particular?
I can't believe Shane would blast me because I did nothing. My back is sore from bending over backwards to try to get him over when he came into New York. He came in with such a reputation and all of the dirt sheets and stuff, which I don't really follow, but I had heard that he was supposed to be great. And I'd wrestled some guys who were real good, so I was ready. And I was in the Tito Santana role in the WWF where I made guys. So I worked with him, and I found him to be really overrated, and pompous. His attitude's kind of pompous. He wasn't that good, but at least he was stuck up. I found it really struggling. Found it hard to work with, but it's the same thing. I hope he goes on their TV and talks about me, because that just shows he's like my fan. He's a fan of me.
Well, you would never, I would assume a guy like yourself who, can get over on his own merits would never dream of going on TV and talking about somebody that's not even there in another promotion.